Right. Hey guys, welcome back to Big Sis. I'm Big Sis Ange and our lovely co-host.
Big Sis Val. What's up, guys? Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. We got something special going on for you today. We're going to be talking about having some standards. Hey. I think this is something that people don't really talk about a lot, and it is something that should be talked about. A lot of things we talk about should be talked about, but specifically
Right.
today, we're talking standards. What comes to your mind when you think of standards? Like what? Tell us, big sis.
Okay. Well, two things come to mind. Either that girl's picky,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe she just doesn't, take no for an answer, and she knows what she wants. So, and neither are, wrong, right? If you have standards, it just means that you have a certain goal for yourself, certain vision for yourself of what that goal wants to look like. And, it's okay if you, want to set the bar high,
Yeah, totally. And this can go in any area of your life. Like it can be work related, it can be relationships, it can be friendships, you name
friends.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I think in all areas you should have your standards, because who likes to get pushed over or taken advantage of? Not me.
Exactly.
I know my big sis Val don't either. Hell no.
Hell no. I don't take crap from nobody. And that is something that, you need to have as far as standards, just because, again, like Angie mentioned, some people might take your niceness or, your, easygoingness as weakness, right? And in the wrong hands, they might just walk all over you. They will take you for granted. They won't appreciate you, or, they'll, get away with things that because you let them. So, what's something that you use for standards, for example, like maybe for your work, like what's something that you really hold high of a standard for?
So, before we started this podcast, I was just telling Big Sis Val here that, I kind of slipped up on my standards with particularly in my work area. And I'm not going to say anything foul because I don't speak foul about my clients. I respect them, but it's just, I should have had more control from the beginning in the sense of like setting those standards and making sure that some boundaries weren't crossed over, and just, having that communicated between us two probably would have been a healthier relationship up front. So something something that I would consider a standard for me is, having those boundaries set in place and make sure that those people understand what those boundaries are for you and what those boundaries are for them. Because ultimately, if you want a healthy relationship, you want a healthy work environment, you have got to draw that line. You've got to tell that person, hey, don't cross this line. This is a line you don't cross. I'll meet you here, but do not cross it.
Exactly. And so like,
okay.
Exactly. So like, for example, what do you think you should have done differently to set that standard that you didn't do in the beginning with this client, or, just for example?
Yeah, well, for example, like maybe one of the things that could have been communicated was my availability. So,
Okay.
During these times, it's really weird because we live in the day and age of COVID, and it's new to me, it's new for my client, but I think if there was some form of communication up front, like, hey, I am available, but I'm also having my own personal stuff on the side as well. So I can't like make myself available like 110% of the time for you. Like, yes, I will get to you, but I'm not going to drop everything or what I'm currently doing just to attend and to make sure that I'm helping you.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that this even occurred was just because, again, this new situation in life, COVID-19 happened, and I didn't really know how to go about it, but I should have stuck to my standards.
Yeah. And, that's really tough because, especially when you're in your field, some of them aren't really aware that you have other clients, some of them think that, oh, like she's only like, she only, is, attending to me, and, I can text her whenever I want, because real estate agents, you're basically that human, you have that human touch right there. And
Right.
so I can understand how, maybe you need to set like a time block, like,
Yeah.
listen, Mr. Seller or buyer, like I'm going to be available between 12 noon and 6 p.m. I have kids, or, you can say something like, I'm going to be very busy and I won't pick up. So don't think I won't get to you. Got it. And then that's it. The error is cleared. And then now she'll have more respect for your time, and so on and so on. So
100%.
it's like my adjustment.
Yeah. And I think, like, just based on what you just said, because you just like you just hit the nail. Like, you definitely, I should have done that. And it's something I didn't really think about, which is so funny to me. I don't know why. I've been doing this for 4 years, and here I am thinking that's like,
Nope.
new to me. But I
That,
need to
that was something too, like I had like clients reaching out to me at 9 p.m. thinking that I was just going to be available. And then, I remember my team were like, you need to set the standard that that's not okay to call you at 10 o'clock at night, because then they're going to think that you're going to be available every time they call or text you for a question or whatever. So they got to like cookie cutter it and put the barriers out,
Yeah, 100%. And it just makes me think too, setting those boundaries will allow them to respect your time and respect you ultimately, because it's a two-way street. This is a business relationship. You should be fulfilled as they should too. So you need to remind yourself that you need to make sure that this two-way street. It's not all about the customer, even though they say the customer is right, quote unquote. Sure, in a sense, you want to put them first. That's always your priority. But you also want to remind yourself that you have a life outside work. So that's, my 2 cents when it comes to having standards as far as work goes.
Yeah, honestly. And then like Angie mentioned earlier in the beginning, that, you can have standards in every category of life, not only work, but for example, I actually recently had standards for my circle of friends, and that was hard because some of my older friends that have been my friends since way before, they weren't really adding value to my life as much as my current situation, right? And then I met friends that, added value to my life, like Angie, we're in the same career. So we're, working together, and that's basically just having standards. I basically just cut those people out, not 100%, but I don't hang out with them as often, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Even if you do have history with these people.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like texting someone. I'll call them after because they just like gave me a buzz. Okay.
Feel like I'm in my podcast right now. Don't you know?
I'm just sitting here right now. See, setting standards right there. But no, and you're so right. Like, it can go in any area. I think mainly, especially if you want to keep your sanity, girl, like you got to draw the line and make sure that no one steps over it. And even if new things come about your life, like, I think it's important to always remember to stick to those standards. Like, COVID should not have been an excuse for me to bend the rules for myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, it should have been that regardless of COVID-19.
Yeah.
So it's just my 2 cents on that. As far as relationships goes, you kind of mentioned like earlier, you want someone, you get called like picky or whatever, and
right.
And I'm like, what's wrong with being picky?
I just have standards.
Yeah, I'm like, who cares? Like, I feel like that is such a thing for people though, where they're just like, oh, that girl's like picky, or that guy's like picky. Well, I mean, why can't we be? Like, we're investing time, emotions with these people. Like, I need to be picky because if they're gonna treat me like shit, I need to know straight up.
Angie, yes. You need to know right away. You need to find that shit out right away in the very beginning. Let them know who you're about and what you're about, or else y'all ain't gonna fuck around with each other.
Yeah, it's not gonna go very well.
You just, rip the Band-Aid off in the very beginning, or would you rather find out later and waste all that time and invest all that time in that person?
Yeah.
You know
what?
Don't be afraid to call your shit out and say what you want.
Say it. Something you brought up right now that just reminded me of what I wanted to point out a second ago. So,
What?
you know, your standards. You're either going to have that uncomfortable conversation up front, talking about your standards, or you're going to have to address that uncomfortably when that happens. So you choose what you want to do. And ultimately, if it were up to me, I'd rather talk about it up front now, because they need to understand, and you're less like worked up. There's probably like no specific occasion to why this even was brought up. Like, you know, you're just talking about it being important to you, rather than later down the line, because the only reason you're talking about it is because something happened and you guys are both all worked up and, you know, feeling some type of way about each other. So I think it's a harder conversation to have later down the road.
And you know what? That just reminded me too. It's like we're saying to have this conversation in the very beginning, like, you know, day one, be like, all right, so this is what it is, and blah 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 blah, and scare the fucker off, right? But what you do want to do is whenever you do start feeling like it's growing into more than a friendship, more than a partnership, you want to be like, all right, so this is what's up, and you want to call it out first. You want to be the one that says the first sentence about it. You want to like be the one that wears the pants, because first of all, you'll be more respected. Yeah. Second of all, you're in control. Like at the end of the day, you have control. Yeah. Girls. And then third, I mean, there is no third. Just have standard. That's it, and stick with it.
Yeah. No, and I'm 100% with you. And you know, this is gonna probably be literally like the cherry on top. You know, you in every relationship, in every area, you're not gonna going in with standards, you'll probably have a better experience with that person, with that work environment, with anything in your life than you will if you don't go in with standards.
Yes, you'll understand each other better. There's no question game, no assuming game. Like, oh, he looked at me this way. Maybe he's not into me anymore, or like whatever it is. You guys, the communication will be there, and the level of trust will be there too. So that's it. That's the key to it all.
Amen, sister.
A preaching like session.
Yes, I know it does feel that way, huh?
We get too into this. We're like, okay, this is how it is.
I love
it. But it's, you know, it's just really important to have standards, so that way you can set the bar for your life.
Yeah.
Your own way.
And don't feel bad about having standards. Don't like fuck what anyone has to say about you having standards. This is for you. Remember, you live your life to please yourself, no one fucking else. So fuck everyone else who thinks they can have a say in your life about your standards. No.
Exactly. It's not their life, it's your life. So live it, dream it, and put some standards on it.
Yeah, girl, do your thing. But I think that pretty much wraps up what we had to say today. I mean, you know, we got all the juiciness out of this topic, and you know,
our message was conveyed for sure.
Yes. Any final thoughts, Miss Val?
No, honestly, we covered it all, you know. So
yeah, it was like totally a preaching session. So I hope you guys enjoyed this because I did. You can tell we were extra passionate today about it.
So. I know, honestly. But, you know, we kill it. And again, hit us up if you guys have any questions or any, you know, scenarios you're dealing with and you want any advice. Hit us up. What's the Gmail? What was it?
It's bigsisquestion@gmail.com. As always, we're here. This is a safe place. And, you know, even if you do have a question to ask, don't be afraid to ask. Like, we're not going to go, hey, this person over here said this and that. Girl,
yeah.
This is confidential. You know, we keep it real here. So if you have questions, you know, I'm sure someone else can use that same help that you're going through. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. And we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.